podcast solo now, right?
Starting today was Katie Smith.
Okay.
Katie, who played volleyball here.
Yeah. Okay.
So this was her first one. She's good. She's very natural.
Yeah. Now I'm just waiting on digital to tell me we're streaming.
Okay.
I looked it up. Tackie's outscoring opponents at home, FBS level opponents. So take Murray State.
Okay.
By almost 15 points a game. Almost entirely skewed by that West Virginia.
Really?
Because their first two FBS home games this year were both 3-point wins in overtime.
Interesting.
So,
Another 4-0 at home.
yeah. Like 37-34 against Houston, and 34 or 33-30 against Texas in both of those in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And then a whole lot to a very low against West Virginia.
Yeah, they killed West Virginia.
Which is it's so funny to me because West Virginia was a totally different animal
I know.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I think that was almost like a must-win for them when they played like it.
This is such a strange Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we're live.
Good. All right.
Well, welcome to the South Concourse of McLean Stadium in Waco, Texas. In front of the RG3 statue, it's time for this week's Big 12 Breakdown. Sports Director Kurtis Quillin alongside the voice of the Bears. It's John Morris. And John, to the home stretch we go.
Oh, isn't that hard to believe? Here we go. 7 games down, 5 to go for Baylor, and everybody else pretty much in the same boat. But man, think about what's ahead. You always hear they remember November, like big games in November. How you do, how you finish the season. We're almost there. I mean, after this week, we're into November.
And it's so hard to believe when you look at this 5-game stretch for Baylor. It's like, oh, they're gonna remember.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
November.
Exactly. Let's hope it's remembered very well.
This is a week in the Big 12 where you have 2 sets of ties in the Big 12 standings, as we showed you on 6 News at 10 last night. You have a tie for 2nd, and you have a tie for 5th. And both of those ties will be settled this week.
Playing each
Currently, there is a tie for 8th, but they don't play till November 12th, and that's Oklahoma and West Virginia. It's a huge, crucial, pivotal, whatever adjective you want to use, week in the Big 12.
Haven't we said that every week?
Yeah.
You know, really good matchups every week, hard to predict, and really entertaining games ahead.
Should we start with our Week 8 recap as we set the scene
Sure.
for how we got here? We start, of course, right where we're standing. Baylor 35, Kansas 23. Great first half, and that was a terrifying third quarter, if I'm Dave Aranda.
Exactly. You know, maybe the best 30 minutes of football all year. Maybe I'd have to study it a little bit more, but just really solid. And what Baylor did was start fast, and that's what they wanted to do. You know, won the toss, and I'm not sure how many of those we've won this year, but maybe that was a factor. But deferred to the second half. 3 and out for Kansas, came down, scored 7-0. And then the short punt, right, and scored again. So in the first 5 minutes, you're up 14 to nothing.
It was the fumble. It was the strip
fumble.
that
That's
no one
right.
knew was a fumble.
That's right. That's what it was. So a short punt, short field score, and then the strip fumble, and it's 14-0 just like that.
I didn't even know that it was a fumble. I remember looking through my viewfinder, shooting the game, and I see the white hat, whose name the crew chief for this officiating crew, the referee, can't remember his name. He was shutting down the clock. We're inside the numbers. Ball never got outside the numbers. I didn't see a flag get thrown.
Right.
But I'm thinking, okay, penalty. So I hit stop record.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, there's an official tossing a beanbag down, running back to tell him I got a phone, and I'm just my mind is blown. Sprint down to the other end. 3 plays later, it wasn't long.
Yeah.
Was another touchdown, and so it was a really good start for Baylor, but. You know, I think I said it last night, you know, for 38 to 45 minutes, they did exactly what they needed to, the Bears did.
Right. Great start, 28-3 at halftime, and then, you know, give Kansas credit. They didn't lay down at all. Baylor missed a couple of opportunities going in right before halftime. Right. If you score there, it's 35-3, and then Baylor's got the ball first coming out in the third quarter. If you scored there, it's 42-3, and then you think, you know, you cruise from there, but that wasn't the case.
Right. Is that third quarter, those 15 to 22 and a half minutes, because you could argue the first half of that fourth quarter were kind of just an extension of the third as far as the way Baylor played, was that more on Jason Bean having one of his best games since Jalen Daniels went down, or is that more on Baylor struggling to tackle again?
A little bit of both, right?
Yeah,
I think so. I mean, I think Jason Bean, give him credit, he looked like a different player, really. He just seemed more in control, more confident during that stretch, and Kansas sure took advantage of it, got it to a one-score game at 28-23.
Okay, now the real analysis here. Mixed bag on Twitter on the uniforms Kansas wore. The throwback jerseys, the royal blue pants, and the oversized Jayhawk on the helmet. I would have gone white, blue, white instead of the royal pants, but all in all, I didn't hate them.
Right. I think it reminds me of K-State every once in a while wears, they're purple, and they've got the dark purple shorts and the light purple periwinkle, whatever color it is, tops. It reminded me of that. And I know Kansas doesn't want to be compared to Kansas State in anything. I thought it was an odd combination. I thought to me, it was trying too hard for an alternate uniform combination.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I probably would have gone with white again, but, I'm not the one making the equipment decisions at the University of Kansas.
They didn't ask us.
Looking through the rest of the slate, Texas Tech 48, West Virginia 10. Everything went right for Joey McGuire and company, and everything went terribly wrong for Neil Brown and company.
Really impressive win for Tech, just the domination in that game.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't even close. So give Tech credit for that. I think it was homecoming in Lubbock last week, and they took advantage of everything in their favor. They're 4-0 at home this year, and that's where Baylor's going this week. But, man, that was a really impressive win.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up homecoming. Would you like a fun stat from Saturday?
Yes.
I tweeted this out, so I don't know if you saw it because, you have a life like I do outside of football. All 4 games in the Big 12 on Saturday were homecoming games.
Right.
There's homecoming in Fort Worth as well. And all 4 home teams won.
Oh, on homecoming.
On homecoming.
There you go.
And 2 of them came from behind to do it. As we, how many turnovers did West Virginia have in this one? Was it 6? Was the final count?
I don't remember. I'd have to check.
I lost count. Truthfully, a couple of friends that cover West Virginia were, another JT Daniels interception, another fumble. It just felt like everything. The wheels kind of came off the Mountaineers, which is so strange because 9 days earlier. One of the best performances that they've had all season. Yeah, the win over Baylor and a little extra time to get ready for this game. And it was on the road. The win over Baylor was in Morgantown, so factor that in. But, boy, Texas Tech looked really good. Oklahoma State 41, Texas 34 was the final in Stillwater as OSU won its homecoming game, came from behind to do it. John, when you score the final 17 points in a close game, things tend to go your way. Yeah, I would say so. I was listening to that game. So after I got home, it's the beauty of playing early. You get to listen or watch other games. So I was listening to that game while I was walking the dogs, actually, on Saturday afternoon. And I started to text you. Did you hear Dave Hunziker's final call? I turned it on as they scored the touchdown that took the lead. In case this is your first Big 12 breakdown, I'm an Oklahoma State grad. The Oklahoma State radio crew, very important human beings in my life. Dave Hunziker was one of my teachers at Oklahoma State. John Holcomb, his color analyst, was one of my mentors. He's the sports director at the CBS station in Tulsa. So I turned on the call. I get into the car, and I hear them after the go-ahead touchdown with like 2 minutes to play. Right. And when I heard that call from Dave, that's the most emotional, the game is over call from him since the Bedlam 2011. Wow. That's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. It was a big win. I mean, the come from behind, you could tell by their emotion in the broadcast booth how big a win that was. So that was huge for Oklahoma State. And Texas played well. Yeah. Just not down the stretch. Right. Which, again, not going to use the B word, but the first 45 minutes of that game bode well for the Longhorns next year, the year after, maybe even down the home stretch in this season as well. Right. Bijan Robinson, very good, and Oklahoma State. You're never going to eliminate Bijan from the game, but they did a decent job of containing him. Quinn Ewers down the stretch, especially when the defense was letting up 17 unanswered to end the game. Quinn Ewers has to force balls in where they probably shouldn't go. Yeah. And I think that was a big part of what led to that loss.
Yeah, Ewers, after playing so great the week before, he really struggled there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is. The environment, credit Oklahoma State's defense, but he really struggled, and Oklahoma State took advantage.
Is there a unit in your eyes, as someone who watches the Big 12 as closely or even more closely than I do, that has improved as much from the first game to now as Oklahoma State's defense? Because this is a defense that let a really, let's call a spade, a really bad Central Michigan team run all over it in Stillwater.
Yeah. Good question. I don't know, really. I wouldn't argue with that fact at all because they are playing really well after losing some studs from that team last year.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma State was pretty banged up this week also. They had some freshmen in there and some, I think, backups in roles that they weren't normally expected to be in. So credit Oklahoma State for overcoming those odds.
And if you haven't heard the call from Dave Hunziker, I'm not paid to say this. This is in no way an ad. You are. The Varsity Network app from Learfield.
It's a great app.
It's the best app for any college football fan out there.
It's free.
And it is free,
Yeah.
and I've listened to many a football game on it this season. And then the final game in the Big 12 over the weekend, the final score on this one, TCU 38, Kansas State 28. It was 28-10.
Yeah.
At one point. My wife texted me in the third quarter of the Baylor game, said, let's go see a movie tonight. We went to go see Ticket to Paradise, but before that, we went and got a drink.
You want to give us a movie review?
I liked it. I liked it. I'm not the biggest George Clooney fan, but I thought he was fantastic.
Okay,
in this movie.
good, thanks.
We sit down at Back Porch Draft House in Temple to have a drink before we go see the movie, and it is 28-10 Kansas State. I see this, and I go, whoa.
Yeah.
And she doesn't understand why.
Right.
She's not a football fan.
Right.
And so she it's like, I don't understand. And I was like, no, like, this is huge. Winner of this game has an inside track at the Big 12 championship game. Okay, so now she starts to understand it. I walk out of the theater, and TCU won the dang game. And so TCU comes from behind to do it. Now, it is worth noting TCU has not played a starting quarterback for a full 60 minutes in conference play, except for a dinged-up Spencer Sanders.
Yeah.
They're winning the games. Give them credit there. Is this smoke and mirrors, or is it just capitalizing on the opportunity in front of you?
Sure. You know, I said last week right here that I'm through not giving TCU credit, you know. I'm giving them credit, and they keep knocking quarterbacks out of the game. You know, I mean, it happened against Kansas State again. Adrian Martinez got knocked out of the game. Will Howard came in and did okay, but
even he left the game.
Yes, and he got knocked out too.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what's going on there, but credit TCU, man. They just keep on winning, and that's amazing what they're doing.
In TCU's conference games, they knocked Dylan Gabriel out of the game when they faced Oklahoma. And then the next week, TCU then played, I'm doing this from memory, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah.
They played Kansas, knocked Jalen Daniels out of the game. Week after that, they play a banged-up Spencer Sanders that an hour before kick, there are unsubstantiated rumors on Twitter. Let's call it what it is. That Sanders might not play. Never thought there was anything to them, and every single reporter that is accredited with a reputable outlet on the Oklahoma State beat said the same thing.
Okay.
Sanders is playing today.
Okay.
But he was not 100%.
Yeah.
Everyone knew that. He still wasn't against Texas. Okay, so that's the only starting quarterback that you played the entire 60 minutes in conference play, because then the next week, Adrian Martinez gets knocked out of the game. Will Howard gets knocked out of the game. I can't even for the life of me remember the name of Kansas State's third-string quarterback, but he was crucial for them in this game. And so now give TCU credit. They came from behind, and they were resilient in doing it. And you don't ask how. You ask how many.
That's right. On homecoming.
On homecoming.
TCU won on homecoming. Really amazing. And, again, to our radio brethren in the league, I was listening to Brian Estridge and John Denton on that call, and they were not as incredulous as Dave and John were, you know, about the comeback.
Right.
They had plenty of good words, you know, to use, but it was a really impressive comeback from that much, from 18 down, even at home, from 18 down to beat a good Kansas State team.
And they got it to 11 by halftime, but I mean, 28-10 is 28-10.
Right.
That's, you know, you're down by 2 scores, 3 scores, and so. Heck of a performance from TCU. I don't want to call it a break this week, but if they can do what they should do according to the eye test and computer projections and those things, we could be looking at a 8-0 TCU.
8-0.
And I'm stealing your line. Where's that transition year?
Yeah, exactly. Because Sonny Dykes comes in, and we've said this before. I've said this. There's usually a transition year when a new head coach comes in. You got to learn where the light switches are. You got to get your offense, your defense installed. New coaches probably, but man, they have just blown right through a transition year.
The most impressive part of this performance from TCU for me, and I want to see if you agree. Quentin Johnston was an almost non-factor for the Frogs on Saturday, and they still found a way to win. They came from behind without arguably their biggest weapon on offense.
It's a good point, but they've got other weapons there. I mean, they've got really 3 outstanding receivers. So, and they've just got a lot of weapons, and Max Duggan obviously is playing well. So, TCU's good. They are really good.
That rivalry game November 19th is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move into the coming week, and let's talk Baylor, Texas Tech. 3 big keys. I'll start. Give you some time to think through yours. Number 1 is big plays.
Yeah.
Tech is an air raid team. Big plays are going to come with the territory. You've just got to limit them, and Baylor's defense is at times, especially with Ron Roberts as defensive coordinator, very good in pressure situations. A lot of the issues that they've had this season have weirdly come in the open field, not in goal to go situations. It's a very strange dynamic on the defense this year, but it bodes well. Okay, yeah, you let up a 55-yard gain, they're down to the 5. You got 4 shots.
Yeah.
And the odds are that with Texas Tech, they're against this Baylor defense, because of how good Baylor is in the goal-to-goal situations, you could be talking about, okay, maybe Tech just has to settle for a field goal here, and you got to take that as a win.
Which would be big, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's really good. There's going to be some shots. Tech's going to take some shots, no question about that.
Yeah. What's your first one?
First one for me would be 2 words, Curtis: ball security.
Yep.
What do you think?
I like that one.
Is that written in bold letters? Man, Baylor has had way too many turnovers. They're -3 on the year in takeaways, and they've been costly turnovers also. Really, I'd have to look. I don't know how many resulting directly in points, but more than not have led to points. And, Blake Shapen is part of that. He's not all of it.
Right.
But you just got to hold on to the ball. You got to be plus in takeaways.
Yeah, you got to be plus in takeaways. And those 2 first-half interceptions Saturday from Shapen, I don't know that I would have made those throws, but I'm also not a quarterback. I don't know what he saw, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on those. But that fumble started a 20-0 run from Kansas. 28-3 at half. Next thing we look up, John, it's 28-23 in the fourth.
Right.
And all of it started from that Shapen fumble in the first drive of the third quarter. That's a good one. Ball security, you got to take care of the football, and you got to get it away from the other team.
Now, Tech is -3 in takeaways also. Remember, early in the year, they had a ton of turnovers. They've sort of righted the ship there. They're better than they were early in the season. So it's not that they have a huge advantage there, but in this kind of environment that Baylor's going to be in on Saturday night in Lubbock, man, you can't feed the beast. You can't help them.
For those of you who have never experienced a night game in Lubbock, it's an experience.
Yeah,
There's
tortillas flying.
The tortillas are flying. And I don't know that there is as hostile of a crowd on the road for anybody else in the conference as what Texas Tech gives the entire Big 12. As someone who's been in the visiting section in Lubbock, as a member of the visiting band, and it's worth it. It's worth it. If you can make the 5-hour drive, it makes it. It's hostile. It's fun. But it's part of why Texas Tech is unbeaten at home this year, man.
Oh, yeah.
And
you throw in Pat Mahomes being there this week, and a blackout, and a night game. You got all day to get ready.
It's going to be a tight game for sure. So your talk about the crowd leads me to my second one.
Okay.
My second key, and I'm going to go with 2 words, although it's not going to be as poignant as
Okay.
yours are. Yellow handkerchiefs.
Ah, good one.
You cannot, you have to maintain the momentum that you've kept on penalties. Baylor's been very, very good on penalties. 3 penalties for 30 total yards on Saturday.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it was not the best mark in the Big 12. Is when you look at fewest penalties and penalty yards on Saturday, there was a team that had 0 penalties for 0 yards.
Yeah.
It was one of the 4 that won, obviously. And so you have to maintain that. You cannot let the crowd noise affect what you're doing. If you're going to get penalties, you can't have pre-snap penalties.
Right.
If you're going backward, it's got to be during live ball, because those pre-snap penalties can kill drives without ever snapping the football.
Yeah, good call. Baylor's been much better in that area since the BYU game.
Yeah.
And to me, that's an example of seeing an issue, correcting an issue.
Yep.
Which Coach Aranda and this Baylor coaching staff are really good at.
Yeah. They really are.
Yeah.
Your second one?
Second one for me, talking about crowd, is just to handle that environment, because it is going to be loud, it's going to be raucous, it's a night game, and, but you just can't let it affect you. So that's pretty simple key, but really important, I think, going in there.
And sometimes the simple keys are the biggest ones, right?
Right.
And so, we said the same thing going to BYU. We said the same thing going to Iowa State and West Virginia. And you look at how crucial those were in all 3 of those games. Baylor's road tested at this point.
Yep.
You've got to lean on that experience in Ames, in Provo, and in Morgantown going to Lubbock.
And I think they have learned from those. I think they'll be better at handling this, than they might have been early in the year.
I agree with you on that one. Third one is attention to detail for me. And when I say that, Baylor's passing game on offense has improved in the past several weeks, even at West Virginia, a game that did not go Baylor's way. However, what I've noticed is when the routes are run perfectly, the offense is running like a well-oiled machine. And when those passing routes get a little haywire, or the blocks aren't there in the run game, is when things start to unravel on offense. Maintain poise and just weather the storm. Understand, mistakes will happen. Don't let one mistake become 2, become 3, become 4. You've got to pay attention to detail. Okay, I didn't run my best route, and we had to throw it incomplete on 3rd down. I got you on the next drive.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. And that's one of the small things that could help you win on the road,
Yeah.
Doing those type things well. My third one would be watch the tempo of this game, because I think Tech wants to run, wants to move really fast, especially, and watch first downs, inside tempo, watch first downs. If they get good yardage on first down, then they really go.
Yep.
If they're kind of behind the sticks a little bit, behind par, so to speak, after first down, they don't necessarily go as fast. So watch what happens on first downs and see how that translates into, if they get 5, 6, 7 yards on first down, they're going to fly. Second down, maybe doesn't even get to 3rd down, but and if it gets to 4th down, they'll probably go for it. They've gone for it and been successful more than any team in the league. I think 6th in the nation, right, in 4th down conversions.
I haven't seen the updated numbers.
Yeah.
During the bye week, I did a story on 4th down conversions in the Big 12, and Baylor was 2nd in the league to West Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
Going to Morgantown. And so I do agree with you on the pace of this game there. Taj Brooks is an enormous factor, especially in late down situations, if it's 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 or even 4th and 1. And is SaRodorick Thompson done, or did he just kind of get his job taken by Taj Brooks, so to speak? Because he was electric for the Red Raiders earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's true. I think he's available.
Yeah.
And know he's available, so it's a pretty good guy to have if you need a change-up.
Right. And all 3 quarterbacks might play, and they've shown incredible strength in different aspects in this season. Donovan Smith has carried them largely to this point, but Baron Morton the past 2 games has been unbelievable, especially for a redshirt freshman.
Yeah. And Tyler Shuck was the starter at the first of the year,
right.
And I think he's back, right? He's available.
All 3 are available.
Yeah, all 3 available.
And
so
from what Joey McGuire has told Waco area radio shows is that all 3 are available, and he's not afraid to that's not working. Grab the next one, put him on the field.
Go to the next guy,
Yeah.
which means Baylor's got to prepare for all three of them.
Yep,
So.
and there are things that the three of them do very differently.
Yeah.
Tyler Shuck is a little bit more mobile. Donovan Smith is very much throw it into the flat and get your yards after the catch. And Baron Morton is kind of an air it out dual threat guy.
Yeah.
And so very, very different tool sets here on that one. But like you know, Baylor is very good on first down defense. But some of those third downs are where we see some of the costly penalties, the costly missed tackles, and so that is a good point.
And you probably brought this out in your story. If you're prone to go for it on fourth down, it changes your thinking defensively, and offensively. I mean, it's like if it's if it's 2nd and 5, you're almost thinking, all right, we got 2 plays to get 5 yards.
Right.
You know, you're not thinking we got to get this or we're going to punt.
Right.
So it's a mindset. You know, it's different for the offense and it's different for the defense too, because the defense has to be ready for a team to play all 4 downs.
Right.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways that, to your point, 2 ways that I've heard coaches talk about it. One, there's a high school coach in our area, Alan Harris, Chaparral High School in Killeen. When he ran the slot tee at Salado, he said, okay, I figure if we can get 3 yards on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down, I like our chances to get 1 yard on 4th down and keep the chains moving. And the other one, Derek Mason, after Oklahoma State won here in Waco, told reporters, I had 10 calls on my play sheet that I thought were good for 4th down.
Wow.
And they used 5 of them.
Wow.
He said, I had 5 more plays ready, five more play calls ready to go for 4th down situations.
How about that? Yeah.
And so let's look at some of the other sports in the Big 12 at the moment. The volleyball race heating up, the soccer race heating up. Where do you feel Baylor stands in the national picture in volleyball? Because they're a top 15 team. They're on the road tonight. We're doing this on Wednesday. How do you feel their national, NCAA tournament race is kind of heating up for them?
Good question. I think they're number 13 in the poll this week, and I think they are one of the top 15 teams in the nation. I think they can finish strong and be in position to host 1st and 2nd rounds, which is really huge in volleyball or in any sport when you have the opportunity to host. I think they're good, and they've got so many freshmen. I just think they continue to get better as the season progresses. Avery Carlson's the Big 12 newcomer Rookie of the Week this week, 3rd time she's won that. Baylor's kind of dominated that Rookie of the Week honor because of Avery and other freshmen that are so good. So I just think they're going to keep getting better, and still have to go to Austin. I think they closed the regular season in Austin against Texas. Texas lost last week, had their first loss of the season last week at Kansas, right?
On national television.
Yeah.
Kansas jumped out to a 2-set to none.
No, it wasn't Kansas. They beat they were down 0-2 to Kansas, but came back to beat them. Maybe Iowa State.
I think you're right.
I can't remember. But Texas lost for the first time this year last week. So to answer your question, I think Baylor is right there in the mix. I think they're a national top 16, seed to host the 1st and 2nd rounds.
I'm inclined to agree with you. And, we talk in football, where's the transition year? Where's the transition year? With all the pieces Baylor lost in volleyball.
Right.
There should have been a down year.
Right.
Ryan McGuire has just picked up where he left off.
Yeah, including his whole staff. I mean, everybody on his staff went on, and 2 of them got head coaching jobs, which is great. So really good job playing with so many young people and so much new on the program this year to do what they've done already.
Wholeheartedly agree with you there. Soccer-wise, we talk about transition years. Baylor's in the middle of one. Crucial weekend if they're going to make the Big 12 tournament. Absolutely.
They play Oklahoma State tomorrow night, Thursday night, at home. It's senior night. And a win, and they're in the Big 12 tournament. So that's the easy part of it. If they win, they're in. If they don't win, Kansas and Iowa State are battling it's Kansas, Iowa State, Baylor battling for 2 spots in the Big 12 tournament. So it depends on how that one goes. There's still a chance for Baylor to get in if they don't beat Oklahoma State. But it's definitely a transition year. And Baylor and we'll have Michelle Leonard on the Baylor Coaches Show tonight. So tune in for that tonight at 7 o'clock. And she reminds me that they've had unbelievable injuries this year, and she doesn't make a big deal out of it, but their top 2 goal scorers from last year out with injury. their top goaltender. Remember Jen Want, how good she was. She could have come back, but she's playing professionally over in Sweden. So those are some very significant losses by this team, and 15 newcomers on the roster. So that's your typical transition year,
Right.
kind of what you go through. But I think if they can win over Oklahoma State, make the Big 12 tournament, that's a plus. I mean, that finishes, you get to finish in the conference tournament, and you kind of finish on the upside.
Yeah, no, and transition year, but building toward next year. Everybody that Michelle Leonard brought in from the portal for this season has eligibility for 2023, and some even beyond that.
Yeah.
So at that point, in a season like this, you start building for the future, and sometimes that leads to success. Now it's kind of what Baylor did in 2017 in football with Matt Rule. They started building for the future, and then next thing you know, they're taking like West Virginia down to the wire, and they were beating Kansas, and they were competitive in games that you wouldn't have thought for a 1-11 team.
Yeah, very true. And for Baylor soccer, back to Baylor soccer, it's very much a transition year because she runs a different style,
Yes.
Than Paul Jobson did for 14 years, and that's a big change.
Yeah, and soccer is so dependent on your shape that whenever your shape changes, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
It's a really big
yeah.
deal. And so, again, crucial weekend, Thursday night against Oklahoma State.
7 o'clock.
At Betty Lou Mays. And then volleyball.
You throwing out the first soccer ball?
I don't
That
think
match?
so. Okay. All right, let's get into a Week 9 preview. Let's start. So it's the late game, 6:30 p.m. Central on ESPN2 from Jones A&T Stadium in Lubbock, Baylor, Texas Tech. We gave our 3 keys.
Of course it's a night game.
Yeah. Pick-wise, I don't know where I go with this one.
Yeah.
It's a coin flip to me, and I don't know which side of the coin I see coming up on this one.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to go Tech in a tight one, simply because unbeaten at home, and it seems no matter what happens in Lubbock, Tech finds a way, man.
Yeah, Baylor hasn't won in Lubbock since September of 1990. Think about that, 32 years. Now, there was a 10-year span in there when we didn't play home and home. It was in Arlington. But even at that, haven't won in Lubbock since J.J. Joe was quarterbacking. That's been a long time. So
I decided today was the day to make Matt Mosley feel old when he tweeted the last time Baylor won at Texas Tech, he was in high school. And I responded to his tweet and said the last time Baylor won at Texas Tech, my parents hadn't even met yet.
That's going back. So that says a couple of things. It's been a tough trip for Baylor. Tech really good at home. But I'll take Baylor. I'm never going to pick against Baylor. So I think last week Coach Aranda said it was their best week of practice all year. And it's just Wednesday this week, so I don't think he's ready to make that declaration yet. But hopefully they build on that, and coming off a win, they can take that same momentum on the road.
Okay, so then we move on to the rest of the slate in the Big 12 Conference this season. This week, 11 a.m. Central on ESPN. It's number 7 TCU and 3 and 4 West Virginia. I'm taking that is in Morgantown.
Right.
I'm going with the Frogs here on the road.
I'm not picking against the Frogs, that's for sure. But watch out. Can they keep that same level of play? Or do they in their minds think, we got this one? I don't think they will. But
is this a trap game?
Could be. Yeah, it could very well be.
Which Mountaineer team shows up? The one that played Baylor, or the one that played Kansas, or the one that played Texas Tech?
Right.
One that takes it down to the wire, the one that surprises everybody and wins that game, or the one that just kind of laid an egg on the road. So only time will tell on that one. But like you said, I'm not picking against the Frogs at this point. From Jack Trice Stadium in Ames, Iowa, it's 11 a.m. Central on Fox Sports 1. It is the Oklahoma Sooners and the Iowa State Cyclones. Would you classify this one as a little bit of an anxiety bowl?
It's probably a good name for it. Yeah, exactly. Two teams that desperately need a win, and two teams that have, you would say, underachieved to this point. There's factors for that, but both teams really want to win that one. I still, and I've said this for a while, I think Iowa State's going to beat somebody that they're not supposed to, or people don't expect them to. Could be this week against OU.
It could be this week. Here's my dilemma in this game. Oklahoma has an electric offense.
Yeah. Iowa
State has probably statistically the best defense in the Big 12 Conference. But Iowa State cannot score the football.
Right.
They can't move the football half the time. I'm going with Oklahoma. I don't feel great about it.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's a good call. It's kind of like, obviously Oklahoma has a better offense than Iowa State.
Yeah.
I think Iowa State has the best defense overall of any school in the league. You just said that. But so who wins that battle?
Right.
I think Oklahoma State, even on the road. No, I'll tell you what. Oklahoma. I mean,
Yeah.
You picked Oklahoma.
I picked Oklahoma.
I'll take Iowa State. How about
Okay.
that? With the defense at home to maybe win.
That's fair. And the other thing is, Oklahoma coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
That's a week for Dylan Gabriel to heal up.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially he was not his full self
Right.
against Oklahoma, or
Right.
against Kansas rather. But he did look good in that win. And then finally, 2:30 God's time from Manhattan, Kansas. It's number 9, Oklahoma State against number 22, Kansas State. This game is on Fox in the We Just Got Heartbroken by TCU Bowl. TCU beat both of these teams the past 2 weeks, and we're going to be saying this a lot because of how interesting and how different the Big 12 is this year. Winner of this one has an inside track at the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd think TCU, they haven't won anything yet. They haven't locked anything up, but they've got the inside track for sure. And who's going to be that second team? This game right here might go a long way in deciding that.
It might. Who plays quarterback for Kansas State?
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything out of Manhattan on what the status of Adrian Martinez is. How banged up is Spencer Sanders? Was he able to live in the ice bath for a week?
Yeah.
There's so many questions in this game, and injuries are going to be paramount in the outcome of this one.
Right. Welcome to the last weekend in October. Everybody's dealing with injuries, and for these Big 12 schools, a lot of them have hit the quarterback position.
They really have. I'm going with Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Simply because if it comes down to quarterback versus defense, I like the matchup of Spencer Sanders versus the Kansas State defense more than I like the potential of a Will Howard or a third string or a banged-up Adrian Martinez against an Oklahoma State defense that has been improving week in and week out under Derek Mason.
Yeah, that's a good call. And, how banged up is Spencer Sanders?
Right.
And this is in Manhattan?
It's in Manhattan.
Yeah.
It's at Bill Snyder Family Stadium.
Man, gosh, that's a tough call.
Beautiful facility, by the way. Absolutely marvelous facility.
Yeah, it is, and great fan support there. This is just a tough call between two really good teams. Does Oklahoma State have a letdown at all after all the energy they had to expend in the win over Texas?
And does Kansas State let one loss beat it twice?
Yeah, exactly. Or are they geared up to know they can't lose again if they want to make the championship game? I'll take Kansas State at home.
It's a phenomenal week. This is tied for second. Both of these teams are in the Big 12 at the moment. Absolutely incredible week, and you'll be in Lubbock for all of it. And
looking forward to it.
One of the more crucial games in the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be windy. It's going to be cool also Saturday night.
Things are a little different in the desert than they are here,
In
where
the desert.
we still get some of the coastal elements of the weather. John, my man, appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That is Week 9's Big 12 breakdown. Catch him on the Baylor Coaches Show tonight, 7 o'clock on ESPN 1660 here in Central Texas or wherever you stream ESPN Central Texas. And then catch him on the air with the Big 12 update on 6 News on Friday and with Baylor Texas Tech. Coverage starts, I'm guessing, 4:30.
Yep. Very good.
Lubbock.
Very
We'll
good.
see you next week.
Thank you.